the very first thing that we want to look at is how we can use bit.lys and QR codes. Now, one thing that is very important to take note of with both of these is you need to understand when do they actually make sense to use. In a large sense, when we are sending information to our learners using WhatsApp, neither of these options are really necessary. A bit.ly, to put it to explain that one first, what a bit.ly does is it takes any link that you have on the internet and shortens it. The intention of that is so that firstly it appears shorter on anything that you specifically on a flyer or a PDF or some kind of content that you've created. And then secondly, it becomes something that is easy to remember and to type. So in other words, it is like a website that you can actually remember the address. Now, when you are sending a link to a learner, you have to ask yourself a question. If the learner can simply click on the link, does it make any sense for me to have to shorten it? Because it doesn't change the efficiency of the link itself. Just as an example, what we used, I just want to quickly change my presentation. Right. So just as an example of what we did in our training, when we sent you the form to complete, right? There's a link that you needed to complete on to click on to complete the attendance register. Now, this link, we could have shortened it to a bit.ly, but for the purpose of this training, it doesn't really make sense, because whether or not we have a link that is the length of this, or whether or not we have a shortened bit.ly link, it doesn't really make much of a difference. But what we're going to look at now is exactly how do these bit.lys work using this link as an example. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that I have my link. So in order to access it, we simply go to a website called bit.ly. Right, this is the address of the website. If you can search it in Google as well, and you will find it. So when you get to that, you'll see that I've created a number of different links already. There's a huge advantage to these bit.ly links in the sense that you can actually track how they've been used in the past. So, for example, this webinars one that we created yesterday, I can already see we've got 212 clicks that have accessed this one already. Now, if I want to create a new one, it is as simple as clicking on create, and then we paste. It asks me paste the long URL, so I just simply paste my URL in there. And then it automatically, once you've completed it, it gives you a link, a shortened one here, bit.ly/3AUP1B4. Very important to take note of, bit.lys are case sensitive. In other words, you will have to write it with lowercase and uppercase letters. Now, when we started the explanation on bit.ly, I said it's a link that you can actually remember and use again. Now, no one is going to remember that. This is where it becomes quite useful when they say there's a customize a back half. So here you can change it to whatever you want to change it to. Now, I often like to start off whatever it is that we do with CWED, because then I know it's for the Cape Winelands Education District, and then whatever it is that we want to create. So in this instance, I don't want to do that, or let's call it CWED and webinar 1 example. Now, this is a very long one because I don't want it to be used again. Remember, once you've actually used a bit.ly extension, then that bit.ly extension has been used, and it will, you won't be able to use it for a next one. So be careful when you consider the naming conventions using these bit.lys, that you give yourself space to use other bit.lys at a later stage. So I'm going to call this example 1. Then you can create and add a tag to this. So we will just, let's call the tag. I've already created the tag called training. What that means is I can now, when I want to check how my links are doing, I can monitor it by going to the training tag and seeing what is happening in all of these things. Once you're done with it, make sure that you save it. And now, instead of having to send a very long link to your learners, you can send a shortened link like this. So let's quickly have a look at the webinars. If I'm going to click on this, it shows me I can quickly see what it looks like, what's happened so far. So we've had 212 clicks. I can see when the clicks happen. Now, this one hasn't been around for a very long time, so it still gives me a hourly rate of what's happening. But as it extends, it'll give you a longer and longer time period that it actually shows what's going on. So, for example, here's the scuba support page. You'll see it started February 28th. And it runs all the way. So here I can see how many people have been accessing this website. This is a very useful way of checking whether or not people are accessing your links. So our colloquia of last year, we can see we've had, obviously we didn't have all that many clicks so far, but last year we could monitor 779 clicks in total, and lots of people have accessed it so earlier in this year as well. So that is in short how the Bitly works. As I said, Bitly is a very useful tool when you are it becomes a very useful tool when you are creating a flyer, when you're creating something that you don't have a lot of space for a long link, when you want to share a shortened link, whatever the case might be. But be careful of when you are using it, if it really is a sensible if it's a sensible thing to use in that situation.